The 2023 Formula One season has begun. Welcome to day one of testing. Welcome to Bahrain. And here is what we have learned today with me, Will Buxton, and Jolyon Palmer. Chaps, how are you?
I thought you'd forgotten your name. Because you said with me, Will Buxton. It's only day one, Laura. For heaven's sake. Great day. Love it. Always my favourite part of testing. Well, part of the season, really.
Yep.
Day one. Love it. First time we get to see the cars out on track. It was mega.
It is good to be back. Jolyon?
Yeah, it's great to be back. It's always nice to see new cars. They're not that new. They're all new, but they're not that different, I should say. But yeah, loads of mileage. Good to see.
Headlines, of course, Max Verstappen is top of the timing sheets. Red Bull very much picking up where they left off in 2022 after that dominant season in which they picked up both titles. Trouble for McLaren and Aston Martin, though both losing valuable track time, McLaren more so, and with more of the issues. But let's touch on that Red Bull dominance. And Jolyon, I'm going to come to you first, because you pointed out the fact that they're doing a different run plan to every other team. We've seen every single driver on track today, apart from Checo Perez, because Max Verstappen did the full day of running.
It'll be done in the morning.
Yeah.
It's odd, actually. When you have 3 days, you want to try and split it. The first day's the worst day because the track's in its worst condition. The car is probably in its worst condition as well. And Max did the whole day. And not only that, he's going to be done tomorrow morning. And then Checo will get, I think he'll get probably 3 of the best 4 sessions out there, which is great news for Checo. Obviously, it's not perfect for Max, but what it tells me is he's confident. Yeah. The Red Bull team are backing Checo to try and help him out at this stage. He obviously needs to start the season well, with Max romping away with it end of last year. And Max is confident. Red Bull are going to give Checo the best of the conditions in the car. Interesting.
It was an interesting day. Ferrari and Mercedes up there throughout most of the day until the last hour or so of running. Fernando Alonso comes and sticks at P2. I know it's testing day one and we can't make too much of times and whatever else, but you got very excited when Fernando Alonso did that, didn't you?
Well, you know what? I went trackside and I thought the Red Bull and the Ferrari look great. And they, to me, look the best cars in the higher speed. And then I saw the Aston Martin come through. It didn't look on a par with them. I thought it looked really good. And people have been ruminating about Aston Martin already before today, seeing the car, the direction, the funding, the new driver, a lot of things happening. And then I saw Fernando come through, and he was in the garage for a while, so it took a while for me to see him come through. And then he did, and I thought, oh, that looks quite hooked up.
Yeah. I mean, as you said, most cars, a clear evolution on where they were at in 2022. Aston, the biggest change. We were talking to Felipe Drugovich, who's standing in for Lance Stroll, who, to understand it, has broken his either one or both wrists in his cycling accident. But incredibly, the team still believe he'll be back for the race next weekend. And Felipe was telling us 95% of that car, brand new for this year. And you can see it in the design. It's very Red Bull RB18-ish, clear influence from them. Everybody else seemingly has taken a progression of where they were at last year. So for me, it's just been fascinating seeing how they've all reacted to being out on track. I was actually really impressed with Alfa Romeo today. A total 180 of where they were at testing this time last year. They had so many problems, but Zhou Guanyu in the morning, Valtteri Bottas in the afternoon, both really, really happy with everything that they got done, ran through the run plan, no major issues for them, and yeah, very, very happy, particularly when you consider there's only 3 days of pre-season testing. But yeah, Aston looked good out on track. Alpine looked like they had a good day, but the time just wasn't there in the car, whether they were running heavy fuel. We just don't know. But as you've already mentioned, McLaren and, Aston Martin lost a big chunk of time. But I think the people being really concerned at the end of today will be McLaren.
Yeah, absolutely. As we said, though, Red Bull top of the timing sheets with Max Verstappen, who had a full day of running as well. Earlier on, he caught up with Lawrence Barretto.
Basically a smooth day, no issues, and we could really focus on the car, try a few things to understand also the new tires for this year. And we got loads of running during the day when it was really hot, or kind of hot, and then in the evening as well. So pretty okay day.
Well, Jolyon Palmer has miraculously been replaced by Sam Collins, who earlier on today predicted that Carlos Sainz would be world champion. But more on that later in the season because it's just day one of testing. Welcome, Sam.
Hello.
You've been buzzing about the pit lane today. What have you noticed? Because you and I have been looking at some of the photos of the car. You've been down in the pit lane right next to them, though. What's caught your eye?
Oh, there's just so many new cars. It's lovely. It's very exciting for me, and we haven't got enough time for me to go through all of the exciting things I've seen. But there are some really interesting interesting technical details. Ferrari's front wing, we've talked a lot about that. Is it legal? Is it not? Yes, it is. Haas's front wing, that's the one that's really excited me. And the Mercedes front wing. I'm really fascinated by the details of the end plate and stuff like that. But then there's also this trend of the side pods. There's this war of side pods going on. You've got Haas and Ferrari who are doing the Haas and Ferrari thing, or the Ferrari thing. Then you've got a lot of teams in the middle who are doing sort of Aston Martin style Red Bull. They're all sort of going for these really sort of protruding upper bits on the outer edges. And then you've got Mercedes just doing whatever it is Mercedes wants to do. And I just think it's wonderful to see all these different directions. Exactly, yeah.
It's haunches.
Will, you enjoyed seeing the Mercedes today?
I enjoyed seeing all the cars on track. First day of testing is always one of the most enjoyable days of the season for me. Sam has always hated launch season because all we do is talk about liveries. And Sam says the liveries don't make the cars go faster. And one thing that's very evident this year is the liveries definitely don't make the cars go faster because there's very little livery to speak of. We are living in the Sam Collins era of Formula One, and we're all just essentially, watching on in this Sam Collins era of stripping all the paint off because paint doesn't matter. It weighs too much.
Everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. Exposed carbon everywhere. But actually, having seen the renders of all the cars, there was a worry that they'd be indecipherable on TV. They're not. We're still going to know who's who. But no, honestly, it's been a great day. I think watching how bulletproof that Red Bull looked out there today. Also, the Ferrari, I had a good chat with Fred Vasseur earlier and with Carlos Sainz, who was just like, we had a faultless day. Nothing went wrong. Everything was great. They're not striding, but they were just nicely confident at the end of the day.
Conversely then, who has got it wrong or perhaps has some work to do?
There's quite a lot of people with work to do. Red Bull, actually. The car ran, but it wasn't as reliable as I really expected. There were a few little gremlins in there. They dropped the car off the tracks accidentally in the pit lane towards the end of the session. That wasn't going to be helpful. But other teams, McLaren, just manufacturing problems. Yeah, they just couldn't get those wheel brows, or call them what you will, those brake duct extensions. They were all falling apart, and they had to put those back together. Aston Martin coming to a stop right at the beginning of the session, long before Fernando Alonso even looked at the car. Drogovic was in at the time. They had quite a sort of troubled run.
Well, all Fernando had to do was look at his car in the second half of the day, and it broke because, again, they put a pit-stop practice in. Car fell off the jack. Floor damage meant Fernando was in the garage for the next hour.
Yeah, and it's just too many little issues like this creeping in for some of the teams. But the team that really surprised me, it was an issue that we saw for Haas last year, and it created an argument with Alpine, was the wing mirrors falling off. And we come here, and the new bigger wing mirrors on these cars, well, Alpine's wing mirrors were falling off, and they had to get a whole load of tape out and tape the wing mirrors on, which you kind of wonder how that happened. But the forces across these cars, you don't really know until you put it at 300 kph down a straight.
Yeah, Aston Martin and McLaren then losing some valuable track time over just these 3 days of testing. But as Sam mentioned, Alpine with a few problems of their own as well. Earlier on, I caught up with Pierre Gasly and his new team. What sort of feedback were you able to share with the team, with Esteban as well, and how did the car feel?
Yeah, it felt great. Obviously everybody's excited in knowing, how the car was, etc. In 60 laps, in these conditions, it's all sort of relative to orders and fuel load and engine mode, etc. But based on my feeling, I felt comfortable. I could spot straight away what sort of strength and weaknesses we got from that car, what sort of direction I want to take in terms of car balance, etc. So, no, it was very productive. Obviously, excited to jump back. I'll be back tomorrow evening. But so far, I must say, we did all our test plans, so I'm satisfied with the work we've done.
Well, it was great to catch up with Pierre Gasly, and he cut a relaxed figure in what is already, it seems, a team he's very much established himself in. Only 2 teams have remained the same from 2022, and that is Red Bull and Mercedes. Will, there have been changes all up and down this paddock.
Yeah, there have. It's actually quite astonishing when you look into it. Christian Horner now the sort of most firmly established team boss, then Franz Tost, then Toto Wolff, then Gunther Steiner. But as you say, it's only Red Bull and Mercedes that have that same management and driver lineup, a change at every other team, be it with their drivers or with their team management. And so looking at how those new relationships are starting to bed in, and, it's only day one, really, for them all to start to get to know each other. As I said, I had a chat with Fred Vasseur earlier, and the guys at Ferrari were already saying it's like this breath of fresh air. That's not to take anything away from Mattia Binotto. but you could see how much sort of the weight of expectation, the disappointment of not living up to that last year had really started to bear on him. And having Fred come in is just this huge sort of new air of revival and sort of happiness and joy, and it's been infectious already at Ferrari. And you see that at a lot of the teams, everybody walking with a slightly different spring to their step. So yeah, 3 rookies out there today as well. Of course, Nick de Vries, who we will classify as a rookie, even though he's had 1 Grand Prix start. It's a proper season this year. Logan Sargent down at Williams, and of course Oscar Piastri at McLaren.
Yeah, absolutely. What did you make of our rookies today out there?
All did some good mileage. The reliability actually was very good,
Yeah,
aside from
astonishing.
McLaren and a little bit for Aston Martin. Everyone else had pretty seamless days. So it was good news. Actually, Piastri got the better of the McLaren part. Felipe Drugovich was in the car as well, another rookie, may or may not make his debut. But yeah, Sargent this afternoon, De Vries this afternoon, all looked accomplished. No one looked outstanding, but it's the first day of pre-season testing, and the main thing is the mileage was good.
And of course, we've got new drivers coming back, as we did last year with Kevin Magnussen. We also have his teammate now, Nico Hülkenberg.
Yeah.
Many people touting him as sort of a surprise for the season. What do you make of his fortunes this year?
I mean, I think it was a surprise, Nico Hülkenberg coming back. I mean, look, it's 3 years on the sidelines. Yes, he had a couple of appearances as a sub, but really it's 3 years out of Formula One, and that's a huge amount of time to still be around, still be deemed relevant and fast enough to merit that return. But it's great for him. We know what his potential has always been. Whether he's lived up to it or not is up for some debate. But that potential, it's got to be realised at some point. And this is his last opportunity, really.
It doesn't feel like 3 years though, does it?
I know, it's mad. But it's gone so far. 2 of those were COVID. So
and I think he's raced in every year. I think he's filled in. Yeah, he's filled in every year.
Super
and
sub.
he's also filled in pretty well when he has. So now he's back in full time. He's going to get a pre-season, which he hasn't had since 2019, the last year that he did a full season, which is a bit crazy. And he looked all right out there. Haas had many a lock-up in the morning.
Yep.
Nico had many a lock-up. But he got some good mileage in again, like the rest. And he knows Formula One pretty well.
And I think when you look at Kevin and you look at the environment down there at Haas and being given that opportunity that he never thought he was going to get again, I think if Nico reacts the same way that Kevin did last year, that pairing down there with all of that experience, with a team that is on the up, in the midst of this budget cap that Haas were operating at pretty well last year, and hopefully with a better sort of structure of upgrades throughout the season, they could be ones to watch, really, because they've got such experience, and that joy being brought to them with this unexpected new opportunity could be great.
I reckon it will be a bit of a love-in down there at the moment.
Yeah.
Because we saw K-Mag this time last year just beaming to be back.
He was so excited, wasn't he?
And I think Nico will be the same. And
Yeah.
I do think, whilst they did have the infamous moment in Budapest all those years ago, which keeps getting dragged up, I think once you leave Formula One behind you, your mindset changes and you let go of all these sort of naff rivalries that you've held, and you think, what was the point in that? It was one thing and he forced me off the track and it doesn't matter. And I think they've almost had like an enlightenment to be away from Formula One, come back, a new lease of life, and they're just there to enjoy it and work together to get the best for the team.
Yeah, agreed.
Well, let's hear from him, shall we? We caught up with him a bit earlier on.
Oh, it feels nice. Feels good to be back. Exciting, last couple of days, and now, happy to have put the theory aside, and start the practical part of the job and be in the car again and live it. Had good fun. 51 laps was quality work, I would say. A bit less than we wanted to do, but like I said, quality laps, and is about starting somewhere and then learn as you go, learn about the car, doing changes, see how the car reacts, that was in that respect a successful morning.
Well, that is just about it from today. New drivers, new lineups, and a brand new season of Formula One. We'll be back again tomorrow here for day 2 of testing. Will, what are you looking forward to?
Day 1 is usually just go through the motions, check everything's working. So I'm looking forward to just watching the guys push on a little bit tomorrow, start to really stretch the cars and see what they're capable of.
Jolyon?
Yeah, I want thrills and spills. We didn't have any thrills and spills today. It was seamless for a first
I
day.
don't think the teams will want that.
No, but the highlight reel will probably look like a lock-up somewhere. Maybe someone ran wide at turn 10. I think they did a couple of times. But I want to see, the drivers starting to lean on the cars, make some mistakes, and see the cars find some level of pecking order maybe, if we're lucky.
Great stuff. Thank you both very much
Pleasure.
indeed. That is it from day one. We'll see you again tomorrow for day 2. Bye for now.